In this video, we will look at how to multiply any set of numbers fast using the LR method. LR stands for left to right. You have already seen the power of calculating from left to right in the previous lecture for addition and subtraction. We will apply the same concept for multiplication. The secret of mental multiplication, like addition and subtraction, is to multiply from left to right instead of from right to left. The beauty of this method is that it is a generic technique that can be applied to any pair of numbers. We will look at more specific techniques later on in the course. When you look at the examples and later do the practice, learn to visualize the numbers in your head. That is where practice comes in. The more you practice, the better memory habits you will develop that will make remembering numbers easy. Let us try an example. Multiply 5321 by 4. Multiply from left to right. So 5 into 4 gives 20, 3 into 4 gives 12, 2 into 4 gives 8, 1 into 4 gives 4. And you have the final answer 21,284. Let us try another example. Multiply 7,142 by 6. Multiply from left to right. When doing the calculation, recall how we covered carrying numbers over when we multiplied by 11. The same applies here and in other techniques in this course. So 7 into 6 gives 42, 1 into 6 gives 6, 4 into 6 gives 24. Carry over the 2, so 6 becomes 8. 2 multiplied by 6 gives 12. Carry over the 1, so 4 becomes 5. And you have the final answer 42,852. Let us try another example. Multiply 9,432 by 3. Multiply from left to right. Take a second to pause the lecture and apply the techniques for yourself. Once you have the answer, unpause the video and I'll show you the steps to arrive at the answer. You can then check if you got your answer right. 9 into 3 gives 27. 4 into 3 gives 12. Carry over the 1, so the 7 becomes 8. 3 into 3 gives 9. 2 into 3 gives 6. And the answer is 28,296. If you got your answer wrong, don't worry. Just revisit the techniques and examples we covered in this lecture. If you have any queries or clarifications, post it in the discussion section. Just like in LR, subtraction and addition, rounding up and multiplying is especially useful when numbers end in 7, 8 or 9. The method is simple. Round up the number, multiply from left to right, multiply the amount you rounded up, subtract the numbers from the previous two steps. Let us look at an example. Multiply 68 by 3. Round up the number. So round up 68 to 70. You've rounded up by 2. Multiply from left to right. Multiply 70 by 3 and you will have 210. Multiply the amount you rounded up. 2 into 3 to give 6. Subtract the numbers from the previous two steps. So you have 210 minus 6. And now you have the final answer 204. The entire multiplication process has been greatly simplified because you rounded up. Let us try another example. Multiply 96 by 7. Round up the number. So we round up 96 to 100. We've rounded up by 4. Multiply left to right. Multiply 100 by 7 and you will have 700. Multiply the amount you rounded up. 4 into 7 gives 28. Subtract the number from the previous two steps. 700 minus 28. And now you have the final answer 672. If you have trouble with subtraction, remember that the last digits add up to 10 and the other two digits add up to 9. Let us try another example. Multiply 398 by 9. Take a second to pause the lecture and apply the technique for yourself. Once you have the answer, unpause the video and I'll show you the steps to arrive at the answer. You can then check if you got your answer right. Round up the number. So we round up 398 to 400. We've rounded up by 2. Multiply from left to right. Multiply 400 by 9 and you have 3600. Multiply the amount you rounded up. 2 into 9 gives 18. Subtract the numbers from the previous two steps. 3600 minus 18. And now you have the final answer 3582. If you have trouble with subtraction, remember that the last digits add up to 10 and the other two digits add up to 9. If you got your answer wrong, don't worry. Just revisit the techniques and examples we covered in this lecture. If you have any queries or clarifications, post it in the discussion section. We looked at multiplication using one-digit multiplier. Let us look at 2 digits multipliers now. To multiply with a 2-digit multiplier, break the multiplicand. Multiply from left to right, add the individual answers together. So let us multiply 36 by 32. Break the multiplicand. 32 is broken down as 30 plus 2. Multiply from left to right. 36 into 30 gives 1008. 36 into 2 gives 72. Add the individual answers together. So 1080 plus 72 gives 1152. Let us try another example. Let us multiply 26 by 23. Break the multiplicand. 23 is broken down as 20 plus 3. Multiply from left to right. 26 into 20 gives 520. 26 into 3 gives 78. Add the individual answers together. So 520 plus 78 gives 598. Let us try another example. Let us multiply 72 by 41. Take a second to pause the lecture and apply the technique for yourself. Once you have the answer, unpause the video and I'll show you the steps to arrive at the answer. You can then check if you got your answer right. Break the multiplicand. 41 is broken down as 40 plus 1. Multiply from left to right. 72 into 40 gives 2880. 72 into 1 gives 72. Add the individual answers together. So 2880 plus 72 gives 2952. If you got your answer wrong, don't worry, just revisit the techniques and examples that we covered in this lecture. If you have any queries or clarifications, post it in the discussion section. Rounding up and multiplying is useful when the numbers end in 7, 8 or 9. To do that, round up a number, multiply the rounded up number and the amount you rounded up from left to right. Subtract the two numbers. Let us look at an example. Multiply 87 by 99. Round up a number. So we rounded up 99 to 100. We rounded up by 1. Multiply the rounded up number and the amount you rounded up from left to right. So multiply 87 with 100 and multiply 87 with 1. Multiplying 87 by 100 gives 8700 and multiplying 87 by 1 gives 87. Subtract the two numbers. 8700 minus 87 gives 8613. If you have trouble with subtraction, remember that the last digits add up to 10 and the other two digits add up to 9. So we have the final answer 8613. Let us look at another example. Multiply 41 by 57. Round up a number. So we round up 57 to 60. We rounded up by 3. Multiply the rounded up value and the amount you rounded up from left to right. So we multiply 41 with 60 and multiply 41 with 3. Multiplying 41 by 60 gives 2460. Multiplying 41 by 3 gives 123. Subtract the two numbers. 2463 minus 123 gives 2337 and the answer is 2337. Let us look at another example. Multiply 67 by 38. Take a second to pause the lecture and apply the techniques for yourself. Once you have the answer, unpause the video and I'll show you the steps to arrive at the answer. You can then check if you got your answer right. Round up a number. So we round up 38 to 40. We rounded up by 2. Multiply the rounded up value and the amount you rounded up from left to right. So multiply 67 with 40 and multiply 67 with 2. Multiplying 67 by 40 gives 2680. Multiplying 67 by 2 gives 134. Subtract the two numbers. 2680 minus 134 gives 2546. And the final answer is 2546. If you got your answer wrong, don't worry. Just revisit the techniques and the examples we covered in this lecture. Post your questions in the discussion section. Like rounding up, another technique to use before you apply the LR method is to factor the number before multiplying it. To do that, factor one of the numbers. Multiply the number with the first factor left to right. Multiply the product of second factor left to right. Multiply 45 by 22. Factor one of the numbers. Let us factor 22. So 22 can be factored as 11 into 2. Multiply the number with the first factor. So multiply 45 by 11. You get 495. Since we are multiplying by 11, you can apply the rule to multiply by 11 instead of using the LR method. Multiply the product with the second factor. So now take 495 and multiply it by 2. Multiply left to right. So 495 multiplied by 2 is 990. And 990 is your final answer. You could have factored 45 as 9 into 5 and multiplied it with 22 instead of factoring 22. Also, you could have used 2 as the first factor and 11 as the second factor. The choice is always up to you, but the easier and the smaller the numbers, the faster you will calculate. Let us look at another example. Multiply 21 by 63. Factor one of the numbers. Let us factor 63. So 63 can be factored as 7 into 9. Multiply the numbers with the first factor. So multiply 21 by 7 left to right. You get 147. Multiply the product with the second factor. So now take 147 and multiply it by 9. Multiply from left to right. So 147 multiplied by 9 is 1323. And 1323 is your final answer. You could have factored 21 into 7 into 3 instead of factoring 63 into 7 and 9. Some would have found that easier than factoring 63. Let us look at another example. Multiply 42 by 36. Take a second to pause the lecture and apply the techniques for yourself. Once you have the answer, unpause the video and I'll show you the steps to arrive at the answer. You can then check if you got your answer right. Factor one of the numbers. Let us factor 36. The 36 can be factored as 6 into 6. Multiply the number with the first factor, left to right. So multiply 42 by 6, left to right. You get 252. Multiply the product with the second factor, left to right. So now take 252 and multiply it by 6. Multiply from left to right. So 252 multiplied by 6 is 1512. And 1512 is your final answer. You could have factored 42 into 7 and 6 instead of factoring 36 into 6 into 6 and solved this problem and you could have got the same answer. If you got your answer wrong, don't worry. Just revisit the techniques and the examples we covered in this lecture. If you have any queries or clarifications, post it in the discussion section. Watch this lecture again if necessary. Then go to the practice workbook and complete the exercises. You might have understood the techniques, but it will take practice before the techniques become second nature to you. Only practice will make using these techniques effortless and easy. If you have any questions, clarifications or feedback on this lecture, post it in the discussion section. If you have enjoyed the course so far, do leave a review for other future students.